There are some lies in our science books. Taught it for 15 years. Even though I'm not teaching it anymore, I still like to study. It's so many neat things to learn. We're going to cover some of that tonight.
Perception is being managed. We are being steered and guided by a hidden hand.
The whole world has been duped by the media that is not real.
Smart thinking, possible time traveler, smart thinking.
That night, boom, contact memory.
And then Alex, if you don't agree, you'll be sent to a re-education camp.
Just because I'm old doesn't mean I've lost my touch with the ladies.
A lot of people here tonight felt like they lost. You know why?
Now, experts are suggesting that we're in a golden age of shape-shifting reptilian sightings. Now, why is that?
I was, and still am, a huge conspiracy guy. I literally ran out of new tin hat topics to research.
It was most definitely not capable of melting steel.
Then I would be a crackpot if I thought that was the case.
Welcome to the Hypothetical Institute, a podcast about conspiracies.
My name is Luke.
I am Salty.
I'm Cam.
What's going on, boys?
Oh,
What's that voice? Are you doing Tiny Cam voice again?
Jesus.
It's all good. All good, boys.
Cam's been shrunken down.
Who was that? That was a tiny little version of me. I think we've got a case of the Saturday Sillies, boys.
It is a Saturday Sillies. Hey, we've been in lockdown for a long time.
Yep.
It's, you're allowed to get a little bit silly as a treat.
This was supposed to be a quick one.
What?
The
lockdown?
The lockdown, I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's that bloody coronavirus, Cam. What are we going to do with it? I say, send it packing. Get it to the curb.
Yep.
We're starting a little bit later this afternoon than we normally would because Robbo had to attend the anti-lockdown protest.
Yep.
How'd that go?
From my couch. It went good. They went past the brewery that we just had on the podcast, the beer podcast. One of the live streamers got a little shot of the brewery. I took a screenshot and sent it to them.
Guerrilla marketing.
Yeah. They were actually, I think they were open because it's Oktoberfest and they're like do mostly German beers. And like today they're like, get the last of our Oktoberfest packs today. It's like, oh no.
No, it's not good. That's not so good.
Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about Atlantis.
Oh.
Mythical city under the sea.
Have we talked anything about Atlantis before?
I think of.
We might have mentioned Atlantis before because we have talked a bit about Theosophy and like Madame Blavatsky in the past, and so Atlantis definitely comes into theosophical stuff. So it's definitely got a mention.
We surely would have mentioned it at some time, talking about the whole like ancient civilizations that were in all the different countries.
Yeah,
and I think Nazis. We've come across some Nazis.
Atlantis. I did not realize that Atlantis still got people so hot and bothered.
Does it?
It does. So I did an interview on my show about Nazis the other day with a archaeologist, a real archaeologist, but I was talking to her about pseudo-archaeology. And so Atlantis did come up. And after we did the show, I think there must have been some doco about Atlantis that was airing on like the History Channel or whatever, which for those people that say Atlantis is not real, why would it be on the History Channel if it wasn't real?
I watched a couple of those and Jesus Christ. The History Channel was good.
I think she said something like, basically Atlantis isn't real. And all of these people are like tweeting at her like, yo, you fucking communist. How dare you? It's like, geez, Louise.
So
settle down.
Going back to the start of it all is Plato, right?
Yeah.
Plato wrote about a city that was engulfed by the earth, basically, in the ocean, way back in fucking Plato times.
Yeah.
Now, is this
ancient history?
Is this like the first straw man? Is this what Plato's been cooking up?
I think no. Plato invented a whole civilization to get mad at.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like on Twitter making up a guy to get mad at. Plato invented that.
Yeah. So yeah, he told of a story that apparently one of his students told him, passed down from someone from Egypt. Like historically, this happened, centuries ago.
Yeah, and it was like this civilization that did all the wrong things, and it was like stood in opposition to Athens. So Athens is doing all the right things, but these Atlanteans are doing all the wrong things. And you just know that when he was telling this story, like Atlantis was getting the dumb guy voice. Like, hello, I'm Atlantis.
Yeah.
Aristotle believed that Plato, who was Aristotle's teacher, invented Atlantis to teach philosophy.
Yeah.
Which I thought he was doing already. So I thought that was a dumb observation from Aristotle. That's why he was the student, I guess.
Maybe as a nation we should have a lot of hubris.
I mean, over the years, they've found off the coast of Greece places that have been sunken, right? Like bits of peninsulas that had buildings and stuff that are now underwater.
Yeah.
Do you think one of these students just saw that and was like, fuck, mate, you should have seen that bit of the city out there just sunk into the ocean? And he's like, you know what? Bloody good yarn, that one. I'm just going to spin it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Put it in one of my books.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be based on something, in fact.
Things fall into the ocean.
Yeah.
That's just science.
Yeah. It's gravity and water.
It was actually a good article in like news.com.au. Like I think it was Adelaide Now that I read this. It was about the Nazi side of it, but it had a good kind of overall background into Atlantis. But it said that some people argue that Plato was weaving together a broad patchwork of stories into a fresh tale, in much the same way as George R.R. Martin pulled together many historical elements, be they geographic, cultural, mythological, into his blockbuster Game of Thrones series. Which I thought it reflects the time that this was written, like 2017 or something.
Yeah.
And even before him, didn't Tolkien, wasn't a lot of what he wrote based on England?
Yeah, I think you can't really write fantasy without looking at
some sort of reference.
Yeah, you don't start writing fantasy and go, I'm not going to include any more swords because you got to look at all the times other people have used swords.
But in 2000 years, let's say the Game of Thrones series still exists as a piece of literature.
If he ever finishes that last bloody book, maybe.
Yeah, maybe when it comes out in 2000 years. But who's to say that people aren't going to look at that and be like, oh, so George R.R. Martin was based on reality?
No, I don't think people are going to.
You don't reckon? You don't reckon?
Where was that big ice wall? Which continent was it on?
Well, I mean, maybe if in 2,000 years people are idiots.
Oh, well, I mean, we're certainly not seeing a trend towards that, are we?
Touche. This one that I was reading was about the Nazis, because the Nazis went to try and find it. Himmler and someone else. But it mentioned cosmic ice theory, which is one of the... So I guess all the theories are that it was a volcano or something, right? That sunk Atlantis, or their own hubris.
Yeah, either a volcano or maybe earthquakes.
And the gods did it, maybe?
Yeah.
They're like, how dare you attack Athens?
So it was founded by Poseidon.
Oh, right.
The city, which I think is a good little clue for those who are trying to work out, is this real or not? Maybe that the start of the story is that the god of the sea started this civilization. Could be a little clue that maybe it was just a metaphor.
Yeah, but lots of places have, stories of mythical foundings, but they still exist.
See, maybe Poseidon built Atlantis on the earth, on the surface, because he needed like a dry dock.
Yeah.
And his plan was always to put it underwater.
Yeah, because that was my other thing. It's like, how convenient that Poseidon founded the civilization and then it sunk into the sea.
Yeah. He just had to build it on the dry dock first.
Yeah. Or maybe they accidentally tasked him with building it. Hey, we need a new city. Poseidon, you up to anything? Like, nah, got nothing going on at all. Oh, you want to have a go? He's like, yeah. And then when it sunk,
we should never let that fucking guy.
we knew it.
Do that.
Like every civilization he builds sinks.
Yeah. Why do we keep getting caught out by this?
Yeah, we should have known he would have know nothing about earthly foundations.
The other theory is the cosmic ice theory. Have you guys ever heard of this?
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Have we? What is it?
So it's like it was Nazi science.
Yeah.
It was this Nazi scientist. It was like their alternative idea of like atoms, basically. Because they sort of, Einstein had said quite a bit about how atoms and things worked, and they were a bit sus on that for obvious reasons. And so they came up with this alternative theory, which is world ice theory, which is that basically the building blocks of everything is ice. And it's so stupid. And it's like, that there must have been Nazi scientists who were like so cut that Jews had worked out atoms. Because they're like, we've got to do this fucking ice shit. But like, if they'd won the war, there were going to be like ice theory museums. Like there was a plan for like a gigantic 4-story museum dedicated to ice theory. But yeah, everything's just ice and like different varieties of ice.
So their theory is that, or how it relates to Atlantis is a giant ice ball, because all the stars in this theory are made out of ice.
Yeah, it's all ice.
Right.
And it blasted and smashed into Atlantis, sunk it, and then bounced back. And guess what happened to that ice ball?
It's the moon?
It became what we know now as the moon.
Wow.
Which is hilarious that it like boing. The Nazis never found it.
No, but part of the reason they were looking, so Plato came up with this thing. Then down the track, Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophists sort of incorporated it into their idea about root races. So they had this idea that...
who's quickest?
Yeah. Robbo.
It's an Australian podcast. You cannot say root races and bloody let that... Yeah. Anyway.
They had this idea that humanity... There were all of these different races that had made up humanity over the eons. And so I think the third root race were the Lemurians, and then the Atlanteans were the fourth root race. And now the fifth root race were the Aryans, who you might have heard of. But then one day, thousands of years from now, the sixth root race would come along and replace the Aryans. So there would be this sort of evolution of humanity. But so the reason that the Nazis were so keen on Atlantis was if you can go out and find Atlantis, you can prove that this root race shit is real, which proves that the whole idea of there being this superior Aryan race is also real. And yeah, they were quite keen on that for obvious reasons.
They went to Tibet to try and find it. Did you guys know this?
Yeah, like they had a division of the SS whose job was to go out and do this Raiders of the Lost Ark shit.
Yeah, so their theory was that Tibet was like so isolated from the rest of the world that there might be evidence of the original Aryan race there and maybe some people there. So they went and got like their chief skull measurer to go measure a bunch of people in Tibet to see if they had Aryan skulls. They did not.
No.
That whole Nazi stuff is always just every time I read about it, I'm like, yeah, right. It's crazy they did all that stuff.
Yeah, bad dudes.
Bad dudes, yeah. I mean, that's certainly not the worst stuff they did.
No, I will say that.
Yeah. The idea of Atlantis kind of didn't really pop back up again, and like it kind of drifted around, fringe theories and stuff. But there was a book in the 1800s that I came across called The Antediluvian World, which is by Ignatius someone.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys come across this?
No, I like the word antediluvian there.
Yeah,
tell
that
us
is a good
more.
word. Ignatius L. Donnelly, he basically thought it was factual and wrote a book about it. But the reason I'm kind of noting him is because he also wrote a book about the Shakespeare Francis Bacon theory.
Oh, yeah.
He pushed that one out there as well as being true. Yeah, he was a kind of interesting guy, but he wrote another one about Ragnarok, the Age of Fire and Gravel. He basically believed that Atlantis existed, and it was the original seat of Aryan. So he was on the Aryan tip on that one, and it perished in a terrible convulsion of nature, in which the entire island sunk, and that kind of kicked off modern versions, and that's where the Nazis had picked up. Obviously, if someone's writing about Atlantis being full of Aryans, the Nazis going to be interested. It seems to have stemmed from him.
So, Robbo, you watched some of this History Channel stuff. Did you learn anything about the history?
Oh, the History Channel is so bad.
Did you just pivot into watching that Ancient Aliens?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that. It had, the guy from the Aliens meme.
Yeah.
He popped up. But I especially watched one about some metal that they found. Oh, I didn't write down what it was called. I've got so much information about it, and I don't know what it was called. Oh, orichalcos, which is apparently some super rare metal that is only found in Atlantis, or people used, in that time.
I feel we've talked about this before.
Yeah. Okay. So they found some, and this is what the history thing was about. Well, they found a whole bunch of metal ingots in a sunken ship in 2017, which they did. They found this kind of unusual alloy, and everyone's like, "Whoa, that's pretty cool." But I went on to, and there's a guy talking about it who was he also sent me on a sidetrack because he was talking about all this. This exhibition was funded by the Association for Research and Enlightenment,
right?
Which had planes and stuff, and they were doing this whole kind of way to find Atlantis. And then I went on a rabbit hole of the Association for Research and Enlightenment, because you hear that and you're like, "Wow, that's sus." Who are these people? And that was so. I just went on this huge rabbit hole about the founder of it, which I think we should almost do a whole episode on, called Edgar Cayce, who was this clairvoyant in America.
Oh yeah, I know that name too.
He was a sleep clairvoyant, apparently. That he'd fall asleep and then he could diagnose people's, or he could absorb all these books, all the information of a book if he slept on it, and then he could also diagnose people's ailments if he was under hypnosis. So he'd work in tandem with a hypnotist everywhere he went to hypnotize them, and then he would diagnose people's sickness. A couple of notable things about him from Wikipedia. It says he found it very difficult to keep his mind on lessons at school, which I don't know what that's evidence of, because I think that's everyone. But that managed to
join the club, dude.
Yeah. That's super I was gifted. I really struggled at school because I was too gifted. Put that on my Wikipedia. But he failed a spelling test, and his father ruthlessly tested him for spelling as a result of that. His father really wanted him to be good at spelling for some reason.
Well, so that he can spell things correctly. Yeah,
that's true.
I wasn't failing spelling tests, I'll say that.
Eventually knocking him out of his chair with exasperation. At that point, Cayce heard the voice of the lady who had appeared to him the day before. He saw someone the day before. She told him that if he could sleep a little, they could help him. He begged for a rest and put his head on the spelling book. When his father came back into the room and woke him up, he knew all the answers. In fact, he could repeat anything in the book. His father thought that he'd been fooling before and knocked him out of the chair again. Eventually, Cayce used all his school books that way. By 1892, Cayce was the best student in class. And on being questioned, Cayce told the teacher he saw pictures of the pages in books. His father became proud of his accomplishment and knocked him out of the chair. Resulting in Cayce becoming different from his peers. Then he got the ability to diagnose people in his sleep. he was struck in the spine, at the base of the spine, by a ball in a school game, after which he began to act very strangely, which is, again, a weird thing to put in by, a kid that falls asleep on books and absorbs them. And then they're saying something else he's doing strange.
Then he started acting strange.
Yeah. So he was put to bed and he went to sleep and then diagnosed the cure in his sleep, which his family prepared and cured him. His father boasted his son was the greatest fellow in the world when he's asleep. Then he lost that ability for several years. And then he teamed up with a hypnotist, John Duncan Quackenboss, which is a great name for a hypnotist. But he was in New York, so then he recommended another hypnotist. He went through about 3 or 4 hypnotists, but he refused to take any money for these diagnoses he would do. But he decided to invent a game called Pit, which is a stock trading game. Have you guys ever played this game?
Oh, it seems a little... Is it like a famous one?
Yeah, it's pretty. It's been around for years. You just yell at everyone.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, my sister and her family were playing it, and they're pretty quiet. They're not loud people.
Not when they're on the bloody fictional stock floor, though.
Oh my lord! Because the whole point of the game is you yell at everyone. I got this. I got this. What do you got? I need this. And they just all started screaming at each other. She's like, I have no idea what's happening here.
Sounds fucking awful.
Yeah. Anyway, this guy invented it apparently as well. But then it's also not clear apparently because there was 5 or 6 other games exactly like it at the time. And so that was kind of controversial, but he never got any money for that. Then in many trance sessions, he reinterpreted the history of Earth. He talks about the 5 human races and how they were created separately and lived in different parts of the Earth. And he also talked about Atlantis and aliens, and the red race developed in Atlantis by the aliens. So then the foundation that this guy started is still going.
Oh, good.
And it's funding... And it's got a long Wikipedia page. This is the Association for Research and Enlightenment. And they're able to fund expeditions looking for Atlantis. So that's Edgar Cayce. Anyway, on one of these expeditions, or related, or on the episode of History Channel that I was watching, they found this metal that, no one knows where it came from. And it's this unique alloy that's made up of 70% copper or 5% zinc or whatever.
Well, it sounds like they might have a little bit of an idea of what it's made of.
Yeah, they know exactly what it's made of. And I looked on Reddit Blacksmiths, the blacksmith subreddit.
Oh, here we go.
And someone's asking about it. They're like, what's going on with this mysterious thing they found?
Yeah, this never before seen alloy.
Yeah, the top comment is, this stuff isn't mysterious, it's brass. Given the high zinc content, it's close to yellow brass, which is about 1/3 zinc. It is no more legendary than writing, which Cadmus also believed by the Greeks to have invented, along with just about every kind of metalwork. Just as sensationalist title with Atlantis gobbledygook in the first paragraph for clickbait. Fucking owned with knowledge by Reddit, the blacksmith subreddit.
Blacksmiths.
Someone also wanted a ring made out of it. This was in the metalworking subreddit. And the reply was that brass is going to tarnish, turning brown and discoloring your fingers. Plus, anything with nickel or copper has the possibility of causing allergy. Not to mention the toxicity and irritation from the lead, or the possibility of rust from iron. I don't think it would be suitable for a ring.
Yeah, couldn't you just get a dodgy copper ring down at the Bunnings?
Yeah. They dedicated so much time to this. So there's a whole 6 or 7 minute segment on that.
And they could have solved all of their problems by just jumping on r/blacksmiths.
Yeah, a font of knowledge. Have you guys watched any of this ancient history channel stuff over the years?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I've ever checked it out.
It's surprisingly cooked.
Yeah.
All of that stuff I described was they're presenting it as fact, basically.
Yeah, there's just a heap of cooked stuff that gets presented as fact, and it's this could maybe be a clue as to why people have gotten so cooked.
Yeah.
When over the past couple of decades, the this channel dedicated to history pivoted into being dedicated to conspiracy theories, essentially.
Pseudoscience.
Just a thought.
I also had a look at Ask Historians for information about Atlantis on Reddit as well. Someone in the comments, and basically everyone was like, yeah, it's, there's no evidence of anything. But one person commented saying, until we have a definitive lockdown on the location of Atlantis, which I expect to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And then someone's like, that's a bold statement. What makes you think that? I cannot go into too much detail. I think I've already said too much, and certain interest groups in archaeology would not want this knowledge to get out. But people have the right to know, so I'll tell you what I can. Some scientists studying the Orichalcum find have contacted me and told me they found fossils of animals embedded in the ore, which they then sent to their finest cryptozoologists. It turns out the fossils are only found in a certain limited marine biosphere, thus greatly limiting the amount of area that has to be covered by future expeditions. And let us not forget the recent advancements in the fields of numerology and astrology by the fine and eminent people who contributed to keeping the so-called myth of Atlantis alive through the skeptical years. Using Deepak Chopra's advancements in the fields of quantum mechanics, we might even discover entangled particles in the orichalcum that would serve as a compass straight to Atlantis. But I digress. I have said too much already. The cave is out there somewhere. This guy posted this like 6 years ago, and I checked, and he's still very active on Reddit. Mostly in the Netherlands subreddit. I didn't translate it, but he did seem to be translating episodes of Taskmaster
into Dutch.
Into Dutch as something he's up to. So it seems the people that were trying to keep the secret never got to him, and he could keep spouting the secret online.
Yeah, as well as providing an important Taskmaster-related service to the people of the Netherlands.
Hey, it's a good show. People want to see it, and they want to see all the different versions. So, yeah, that's the Reddit take on Atlantis.
I think my favorite take that I came across was Ulf Erlingson's take.
Oh yeah,
Atlantis, just Ireland.
Right.
That's it.
Okay.
It's just Ireland. So he has based it on, look, because all of this, I think the Plato put in some detail. He's like, it was this long, it was this wide, or whatever. And I think also maybe over the years, some of that detail got embellished maybe by other people. But he's gone and taken all those numbers and being like, that's fucking Ireland, bros.
Man. So, yeah, right. Is he Irish? Who's this guy?
He's like Swedish or something, or Norwegian. Right. Ulf Erlingsson. He's just matches. It's got to be Ireland.
Yeah, right. You'd be pretty disappointed. No offense to Ireland, but if say the Association for Enlightenment and Research found it,
yeah,
you're like,
it was just Ireland the whole time.
I guess we'll get a Guinness while we're here.
Yeah. Also, I feel like if you were the Irish people, you might be like, hang on a second. What was this whole thing about us being like the shittiest nation in the world? Which was the whole point of this?
Yeah. No, but they were also strong and rich and stuff.
Yeah, they just had too much shit. They were dicks. They were the most dick nation in the world.
Which is kind of the opposite to Ireland now.
Yeah. Very chill.
Yeah, very chill.
Unless you're talking about like Conor McGregor.
That dude has no chill, does he?
No. You could say that he is, the perfect Atlantean.
I guess describing...
He's a bit hubristic too, isn't he?
Describing Irish as chill is probably not the right description for Irish people. No. Just, they're basically the Hawaiians. Big chill vibes.
Yeah. Famously chill nation.
Yeah.
But if you were to just say that they're chill, then that's something you could say.
Yeah.
Anyway, cut that.
Okay. I came across a question. This is on the Smithsonian YouTube channel, which is Smithsonian's a a credible place. But the video was, did Atlantis really have indoor plumbing? Question mark. I'm like, well, this doesn't seem right, because you guys should be pretty clear on that Atlantis didn't exist. And basically they were just showing like things from history, around kind of the Mediterranean and architecture of different times and how it was used. And I think something about Plato. In Plato, he said they had sophisticated methods for, wastewater or something. Maybe not those words, but and some of the architecture from history kind of matches, plumbing. But it was, it just seemed to be like a clickbait title, and hey, it worked because I watched it.
Yeah, they baited you, mate.
Yep. Is that it?
Definitely an alive Atlantis discourse out there at the moment.
So yeah, has it come back, and what are people saying now then?
I don't know if there's anything new, but there's just people going around and being like, oh, I found this thing somewhere. Must have been them. I found some old stuff. Must have been the Atlanteans.
Yeah, right. Have we seen anyone tied into current,
COVID?
Or something like, no. Everything's just being rolled into Donald Trump saving the world somehow?
I can say with 100% certainty that exists out there. I just didn't find it in my travels. This is something that Steph Harmhofer mentioned to me in my interview with her the other day on 3CR, is if you look at the QAnon conspiracy maps, like the big one that has every conspiracy ever and how they're all sort of linked. Atlantis is like right up there. It all sort of starts with Atlantis, so it is very much part of the conspiracy landscape.
The Donald J. Trump Atlantis Neptune connection. This is on Keys to Cosmic Doorways Facebook. There's a lot in here, but basically he purchased some resorts on an island that was called Atlantis or something. But then they've done the Gematria, Royal Towers, 1776.
Yep.
I don't think this is Gematria. It's something. Trump's current Florida mansion is called Mar-a-Lago, Lord, Lago, Lake Sea, Lord of the Sea, Neptune. William Shakespeare said this in Macbeth. Famous historical record, Macbeth. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? No, this is my hand. Or rather, the it's a big word. Seas in, oh my God, incarnadine, making the green one red. Sorry to Shakespeare fans out there. Donald J. Trump is great Neptune equals 322. 322 is the number of completion and transition. 322 is the number that moves us from death to life. 322 is the number of the Skull and Bones Society. Trump is Neptune equals 1019 equals 911.
Yeah.
Neptune's kingdom equals 1122, the day Kennedy was assassinated.
Ooh.
Blah. So yeah, Donald J. Trump is great Neptune. Simple gematria equals 322. I don't know what their
It's also simple.
World Trade Center 1 was 1,368 feet tall. Atlantis Paradise Island in English gematria equals 1368. It doesn't say what the outcome of all this is, though.
It's all just connected, man. I feel like pick a gematria lane. You can't just be jumping between Jewish, simple, and English gematrias. You gotta pick your one.
People do that all the time, though.
Yeah, I know. I don't like it.
Deep State delivers Mueller report on Trump. Mueller delivered the report. It's over 322. It's not clear why this infographic exists. So I thought I'd get to a conclusion by the end, but I didn't.
There's that 322 again, though.
Yeah. Well, that's the only March 22 was when the report was delivered. So bloody Mueller's in on it.
Classic Mueller.
Mueller.
Alrighty. Well, if that's Atlantis, we've had it.
Sure have.
People can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/hypothepod. Thank you to Tammy, our Cooked at $33 sponsor.
Thank you.
You can also find us on Twitter at Hypothepod. We're on Facebook if you like being part of the whole Facebook machine. Robbo, where can I get you?
You can get me at Ale of a Time and aleofatime.com.
Salty?
You can get me at andrewsaltmarsh.com and at Saltmarsh on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can get me at Sexenheimer on Twitter, and my other podcasts are Yerna Passaran and Gather Around Me. Check them out.
Bye.
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 Don't worry about a thing, except if all our world leaders are alien reptilians. I said don't worry about a thing, except maybe the fluoride in our water supply contains mind-altering drugs. Don't worry about a thing, except whether or not Port Arthur was a false flag operation in which to disarm Australia. I said don't worry about a thing. I accept you can definitely hear John Lennon say I buried Paul at the end of Strawberry Fields Forever. Ooh, don't worry about a thing, except not only did Bush do 9/11, but he also keeps the planes out in Area 51, which, let's not forget where all of the aliens are. Don't worry about a thing, except Donald Trump is clearly a woman and you're just blind if you can't see that. Why don't you open your eyes?